Gabriel felt he needed wisdom, and as common knowledge held, age was usually a good signifier. Therefore, Gabriel was heading to speak to the oldest person he knew. The learning centre was as busy as ever, having only one goal. He snaked his way through the crowd. He was heading directly for the European Annexe, where only the most delicate species were housed. The Annexe's lighting was dim. Gabriel had not realized how much the last time he was here, Pista having been a distraction back then. It did not take Gabriel long to find what he was looking for. Located in their tank, just where Gabriel had left them, was the Dreamer. Gabriel stood before the tank and waited for several minutes. Gabriel looked closely and saw 29 dark spots running along its edges. These were the Dreamer's eyes, so Gabriel knew that they could see him. Though, considering how simple their eyes were, Gabriel doubted they knew it was him. Most likely, all the Dreamer knew was that another tourist had come to gawk at them. Their body was still producing faint lights, even though the translator showed that they were saying nothing, or at least nothing intelligible, the organic equivalent of static. Gabriel felt a little silly coming here, and now that he found it difficult to think of anything to say. After a couple of minutes, he decided that a greeting was always an excellent way to start. Hello. The Dreamer said nothing in response. His bioluminescence continued at the same languid pace. It's me, the Shatterer, Gabriel added, realizing context would help the alien. Hello, the Dreamer replied after a pause. After the greeting, the Dreamer said nothing, which was a problem as Gabriel had been counting on the Dreamer leading the beginning of the conversation. Then Gabriel remembered that the Dreamers had no desires, and therefore no desire for answers. So why would they ever bother to ask questions? Do you recall our previous conversation? Gabriel inquired. Yes, the Dreamer answered. You told me that the only thing you ever did was think. But why bother thinking if you never get bored, if you have no interest in thinking? Gabriel asked. The Dreamer took nearly 5 minutes to reply as they passed the words and flashed their bioluminescence in response. I can do nothing else, they stated. Gabriel believed he understood what the Dreamer meant. They did not think because of any desire to do so, but because their brain was always on, always at work. My friends have returned to their homes, so it's just me now, Gabriel stated. I understand, the Dreamer responded, and as Gabriel listened to the slow, monotone voice, he realized that it was flawless. Rather than being a limitation of technology, the translator was perfectly showing how little the Dreamer cared. What's it like to not care about anything, not even your own existence? I could smash that tank and leave to be ravaged by all the diseases of this world, and you would not feel a thing, Gabriel asked. Not that he had any intention of doing that. I can not say I have no contrast, the Dreamer replied, utterly unfazed by what Gabriel had suggested. At this point, Gabriel expected the Dreamer to ask what it was like to care about yourself, to value your own life, but then he remembered that the Dreamer had no curiosity, so he did not care. Then again, something did not add up. Why did you ask if I was a Shatterer when we first met? Why answer my questions if you don't care enough to answer? Inquired Gabriel. I do not know. I simply flow with the current, the Dreamer replied, after the lengthiest pause to date. This was a mistake, thought Gabriel. The Dreamer had no wisdom, or at the very least had none that would be of use to Gabriel or any other species in the galaxy. They were simply too alien, their minds too difficult for either side to comprehend the other. Gabriel supposed that even the names Dreamer and Shatterer had been something a human suggested. How could a Dreamer know about destruction any other way? Thank you for your time, Dreamer, but I must be going now, Gabriel said, disappointed that there was no point in even asking his questions. Farewell, Gabriel. Perhaps the currents will bring us close once again, the Dreamer replied, before turning back to his own incomprehensible thoughts. Gabriel wandered back to his penthouse. He had hoped to have been in a more stable place after his talk with the Dreamer, but now he just felt even more lost than before. The only other person he had a moderate connection with was Shop, but even if she had been working today, he would most likely have kept his feelings to himself. He was regressing fast, and did not have the enthusiasm or wherewithal to stop it. Getting back into the lift, and Gabriel watched the city and his people scurry below with mild interest. As he got off on his floor, he was frozen dead in his tracks. Standing in front of him was someone in a suit that looked much like his, though if the mouthport and delicate patterns on the outer material were anything to go by, it cost much more than his. They were also wearing other fabrics over the suit, so that the whole thing looked like a genuine outfit, unlike the utilitarian piece of equipment Gabriel was in. He was so taken aback by the appearance of another person on his floor that it took him a few seconds to realize what they were. They were human. There was another human on Minigorod. Gabriel just stared, and the other human stared right back, or at least Gabriel supposed that was what they were doing. He could not see their eyes. Is this what it was like for the ladies? Thought Gabriel, finally understanding how annoying it must have been. See anything you like, sailor? Asked the woman, and by their voice she was most likely a woman. Her body shape was also a good indicator, but he had not wanted to assume. Gabriel could not place her accent. That being said, Gabriel was terrible with accents, always had been, but he knew enough to tell she was definitely not a native speaker of any European language. My apologies, Gabriel said, giving a little bow. He was not entirely sure why he did the last bit, but it seemed the right thing to do at the time. I did not expect to see another human, least of all outside my own penthouse, he added. Well, on the politeness front, no one can fault you, the woman replied with a faint chuckle. Did you just move in? Asked Gabriel. I believe names would be a better place to start, the woman stated. Oh, yes, I'm Gabriel, he said, offering his hand. I know. You're quite famous around these parts, the woman said, taking Gabriel's hand and shaking it. HFY, lovely to meet you in person. Never met a real-life hero before. Back to your previous question. No, I did not just arrive. I've been living here for the past 15 years, HFY explained, letting go of Gabriel. 15 years, Gabriel said, astounded. That would certainly explain the effort HFY put into her suit. I like it here. Things move at a glacial pace, HFY explained. Or rather it did until you set foot here. Barely even been here a week and you were arresting monsters, rescuing children and sweeping single mothers off their feet, she added. Gabriel groaned and HFY chuckled. How the hell do you know that? Gabriel asked, before hastily adding, not that. Gabriel just sighed. Was there any point in denying how he felt at this point? He still wasn't entirely convinced that Nish felt the same way, but he undoubtedly hoped. You and your friends were very loud when they passed by my door, HFY explained, and when you get to my age, you find yourself getting more and more nosy. Now that she mentioned it, HFY's voice was making that faint crackling and huskiness that most elderly did. Do you want a biscuit? They're freshly baked, HFY asked, gesturing to her penthouse. No, thank you, I'm fine, Gabriel said, attempting to walk past her, but HFY blocked his path. I don't think you are. I think something's bothering you, HFY countered. Come inside, have a biscuit. Give it a little think, and then tell me if you want to talk or not. If you don't, I'll wave you goodbye. Gabriel could hear Erela on his shoulder saying, Do it, it'll be good for you. He wondered what Erela was up to now. He knew she was on Zorka with Risotti. Then he realized what the Pornot Clin was most likely doing and said, Filthy woman. Excuse you, HFY exclaimed. No, that had nothing to do with you. I was thinking about a friend, Gabriel said, embarrassed that he had spoken that part out loud. I would love a biscuit, Gabriel said, recalling Erela's advice about letting people in. HFY let Gabriel into her penthouse, and Gabriel asked, Weren't you going somewhere? We can do this later if you would prefer. No, I was just going to get a few essentials, milk and the like, HFY replied, as she removed her mask. Her suit must be modular. It was even more expensive than he first thought. HFY had a deep complexion with more than a few wrinkles. Her hair was grey, but was still mostly black. She must be at least 150 years old. Her eyes were deep brown, and when she looked at Gabriel, he could not help but feel she was analysing him. It was eerily similar to how Erela had viewed him. Are you a psychologist? Gabriel asked, squinting ever so slightly. HFY had not expected that question, and it took her a few moments to respond. No, I was a water treatment engineer. I've since retired. Hedwig replied. Gabriel supposed Hedwig just had a high level of emotional intelligence. Aren't you going to take your suit off? Asked Hedwig as she pulled a tray of biscuits from the kitchen counter and placed them on the table. Have as many as you like, Hedwig said, as Gabriel undid the seals and unzipped the upper portion of his suit. Gabriel tied the arms of his suit around his waist. It was not as easy as it sounded. The material his suit was made from was not as flexible as the more advanced suits. Gabriel picked up a cookie and took a bite. It was good. Very good. And they were cookies made from ingredients native to, though not necessarily from, Earth. The sugar and chocolate did make him feel better, but now he felt a little uncomfortable sitting in a strange woman's apartment. Why did you invite me in here? Asked Gabriel, placing his half-eaten cookie on the table. Curiosity for one. I've seen you about, even if you never noticed me, Hedwig explained. I can't deny I've missed interacting with my own kind, she added. Gabriel felt he could understand that. He looked at Hedwig's face, her body language, and he just instinctively knew what she was feeling. It was relaxing after having to spend so much effort gauging other people. It was funny, Gabriel had always thought of himself as being rather bad at all that. You seemed upset for another, and I wanted to know if I could do anything to help, Hedwig said, taking one of the biscuits she had baked, a yellow item with cream on top. It did look good. Upset might be a strong word, Gabriel replied, as he resumed eating his cookie. More like confused. Don't know what to do, he added. And what is causing this? Asked Hedwig, raising her head on the palm of her hands. Gabriel tapped his fingers on the table. He'd been willing to ask the dreamer, whom he had only met once before, in a public place no less, so he realized that this was no different. Plus, he was desperate. It's about Nish, Gabriel said. Hedwig knew about him, so he assumed that she did not need an explanation of who Nish was. Ah, the Dwavenminer mother, Hedwig said knowingly, confirming Gabriel's suspicion and her own. A man pining for a woman, a tale as old as humanity itself. Gabriel sighed, and Hedwig added, I'm not judging you. Most humans have a desire to pair bond, and I can only imagine how hard it must be to want to be with someone from a different planet. The problem isn't ability. I can visit Yersu. My little adventure left me with more than enough money, Gabriel explained. The problem is? Hedwig asked. The problem is there's no point. Dwavenminer don't pair bond, they don't feel romantic love, so there is no reason to try, Gabriel said. Really? I went on holiday to a lovely little world called Fuyojop, and I met a Dwavenminer couple very much in love, Hedwig said, recalling that pleasant holiday. From what I recall, it's very rare. Rarer than any other orientation in Dwavenminer, but certainly there. I don't deny that, but that cannot be the case with Nish. She has never felt the need to pair bond, Gabriel replied. She did not even care about the man who knocked her up, leaving her and Pista to take care of themselves, he added, finishing his cookie and picking up another biscuit. Really? Hedwig said, scratching her head. There was some good evidence on Gabriel's part. Nish did come up with a good name for the deadbeat, however, so it wasn't a total loss, said Gabriel. With a smile, Gabriel leaned in and said, She named him the sperm donor. Hedwig raised her eyebrows, which was evidence against Gabriel's conclusion. Hedwig had never been in a romantic or sexual relationship, and she had never had the desire to. She had, however, known many who had, and amongst them had been people with sexual but not romantic attraction. Not one of those people had ever been as bothered as Nish when one of their hookups scarpered. Certainly not enough to come up with such a derogatory name. In that case, what does it matter? Asked Hedwig, leaning closer to Gabriel. What? Questioned Gabriel. If Nish is how you say you are, then it would not matter if you confessed. She'll just chalk up you asking her to be your girlfriend as an alien doing an alien thing, saving both you and her any real embarrassment, Hedwig explained, picking up another biscuit. But if I'm right, if she is one of those rare Dwavenminer that does pair bond, then you and her both get what you want, Hedwig added, punctuating her sentence by taking a bite from her treat. Even if she does, that doesn't mean she likes me, Gabriel countered, although he could not deny the swelling of hope he felt. No one, not even someone who flies, jumps off a cliff without a moment's hesitation to save someone they do not care about, Hedwig retorted, looking Gabriel dead in the eye. Gabriel paused. He had not thought about that. His mind instantly ran through the worst-case scenario of Nish simply explaining that she did not find anyone romantically attractive, and he found it far easier to swallow. Still painful, but in that case, it would have nothing to do with him. It would not be him she was rejecting, but the whole concept itself. He felt better and realized he did not have anything to lose. Is this what Erla has been trying to tell me? He thought as he looked up at HFY. You are very smart and very wise, Gabriel stated bluntly. One of the benefits of old age, HFY replied, holding up her biscuit towards Gabriel. So, are you going to give it a go? She asked. Gabriel smiled and tapped his own against, and together gave a new twist to an old custom. To giving things a go, they both said.